Hi Virgo, welcome to your mid-September 2019 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here. Boy, I just spent, I don't know how long, kind of organizing my Rider-Waite cards because I'm going to use them this month. And I ordered a second, oh no, this might even be a third deck, but because sometimes I lose one card and then it's no good anymore. And so I was trying to kind of get it all together. And the funny thing that I noticed was that my two decks that I had kind of mixed in, some were glossy and some had like a matte finish. And it was like really weird because I didn't even pay attention when I received the second order. And I prefer like a little bit of a glossy coating because I think it protects the cards better, but I think it's easier to hold because they're a little bit kind of sticky, but they're not too sticky, you know. So if you're somebody who likes cards, just pay attention to those little details because, you know, they have different companies that make them, I guess. So I put everything into piles, so I really want to shuffle these good. But speaking of piles, I'll just kind of go like this too. All right. So in the in this time frame of mid up to the middle of the month, we're going to have a full moon in Pisces. It's at 21 degrees of Pisces, in case you're interested. This is on September 14th, so definitely towards the middle of the month. And for you, Virgo, this is your opposite sign, so it's the opposite house, the 7th house of committed partnership. And this can be, for some people, something comes to a head in their relationship. And this can also be some kind of legal matter. Perhaps it's coming to an end, a legal matter, or maybe new discovery, or, you know, because sometimes it can bring out more information. So we shall see. Okay. Happy birthday to those of you who are in this time period, and all Virgos actually. So the heart of the matter is the 6 of Pentacles. You could be, you know, that's funny because if you are having a legal matter, it might be like who has to pay child support. Maybe the woman, if it's a female Virgo, or the other party has more money. So maybe she might have to give to the ex-husband, or the, you know, it could be like even child support issues. In relationships in general, there could be like this imbalance of power where one person is kind of dependent on the other for their source of income. And if, for instance, the woman is the one working and the man is unemployed, that could be problematic. I'm looking at it with male-female relationships because that's where you're going to see a lot of the conflict, where one party may feel like they have to kind of uphold a certain image, and this can apply to men and to women. The other thing too that could be occurring is that there's some kind of situation where you feel obligated to help a family member, and this can be not something that you want to do. You may feel like resentful that they are asking you. Maybe this is kind of an ongoing thing. This has happened before. And whatever is going on, it all depends on the attitude of the person giving. With the 6 of Pentacles, it depicts somebody who is in clothing that shows that they're of a higher socioeconomic class, and they're like giving charity. And if You're the one who feels like you're obligated to do this because you have a sibling. In some cases, maybe even a parent, and you have more money than they do. You may do it because you're being dutiful, but you may resent it. And just to state something, it's great to be generous, but it's also important to be discerning, to make sure that somebody isn't taking advantage of you and using, for instance, your financial success or stability. You don't even have to be wealthy, but if you're somebody who is very diligent, and maybe you're a good saver, and you just go to work every day and whatever, anything like that, you may just naturally have accumulated money. And somebody else who knows this, who hasn't done those things, they may need the money, but they may look to you because you're kind of a helpful person. But remember that everyone is responsible for themselves too. So it's all, it's something that you have to decide, judge about whether or not you're doing the right thing. Generosity to me is a very good quality in people. But sometimes people get taken advantage of. And if this is a situation with work, you may be feeling like you're not getting or you want to get what you deserve. Maybe you hear a coworker talking and you say, wow, what do you make? And you find out that this other person is making much more than you. It's funny, one time I was working at this place, and we were talking about, the hourly wage, because I was an hourly wage. And the man who was the assistant manager, this was a retail environment, said, you're not supposed to talk about how much you make or ask somebody else how much you make. And I said, why not? You know what I mean? See, the thing is, of course, people in management who are getting paid a salary, they will tell you that that you're not supposed to ask because it benefits them for you to be in the dark. But actually, that made absolutely no sense to me, because how do you know that you're not being underpaid unless you ask? So, think outside of the box with this, because I mean, obviously, if it's against the rules and you could get fired, then you have to go along with the program. But I just think that it's interesting that there are these so-called rules or etiquette in the workplace that really serve to keep people ignorant, and we're just supposed to follow them, and we don't even question. So it could be something along those lines. And Virgo is this type of sign that could go along for a long time, maybe even knowing that they're not getting paid what they're worth, and they just do it, and maybe now it's all coming to a head for you. In the past position, we have the King of Cups. If this is a workplace situation, you may be working for a boss who's a real sweetheart. But you know what? When I saw that card, I thought that this person might be manipulative. So sometimes people have quite the sob story. I know I sound like a hard ass, don't I? But I'm really not. And I have the moon in Virgo. I'm really not that way at all, but I do feel sometimes that people who are very kindly, and then they cry poor and they say, I can't pay you any more money. If that's true and you really like your boss, then it might be worth it to keep on working there, at least for the time being, because sometimes you can have like real jackasses for bosses, and you don't want, that you might make more money, but you might dread going in every day. This person, maybe maybe they're being honest about it, but they are kind of, with business, they're too much of a pushover. So they kind of give things away and they don't make enough of a profit. It could be one of those types of situations. For some reason, I'm thinking of Pisces, especially as this person. So it might be that that's why they have this issue with paying you. However, they could be very intuitive and they know exactly how to, manipulate you. This might, if this is like, I'm trying to think of if this is like a romantic relationship. I mean, this could even be a situation where you're with somebody who's a water sign, either Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio, and they are in a position where they love you for who you are, and you feel like it has to be balanced. The person in this card is holding scales, and so you may feel like everything has to be tit for tat, and it really doesn't have to be that way. Like if you're maybe you're staying home with a child or something like that, and you feel like you're not pulling your weight, and which would be crazy. The other thing too is that, to me, the King of Cups could be a judge who is really compassionate and seeing exactly what needs to occur, and is into that, not just fairness, but that sense of what a person is going through emotionally. The higher message is the Two of Swords. So for some reason, you're going to have to, you may be like at a standstill or at loggerheads, having a hard time making the decision, or this could even be with the law, but the law is blind. So it might be that somehow, if this is a legal case, that the judge is really believing somebody's story, and that might affect their fairness towards you. I'm not sure. It may, it's funny. I rarely get stumped, but this is a strange situation to me. I'm wondering if some of you are deciding whether or not to, maybe you're deciding whether or not to give money to your father, and he has a sob story, but you're, what I'm thinking, like a covert narcissist type of a situation. It's funny how when I see the kings and sometimes queens, and there is a situation where it seems like, I don't know, like the person's taking advantage, that I think of a narcissist, because these are people in positions of authority, either parents or bosses, authority figures. And and so either that, like you're deciding whether or not to give money to him anymore, or deciding whether or not to stay with that company. Excuse me. And that could be because you really care about this person, and maybe you feel for them, but you're not quite sure if you're being taken advantage of. You may feel that way. And as a spiritual message, it might be saying that your decision or your indecision is really based more on what I would call like a lack of really looking at the situation, like delusion maybe. You might be blinded by somebody's emotional plea. And this could be, this could be a boss too, but it could be like a father, and you just really don't know what to do about it. Also, like an inheritance issue. Could be like the distribution of an inheritance could be going on, maybe from the father. This would be an ongoing matter What crosses you is the Three of Swords. So there's like something that you have felt hurt about has kind of interfered with all of this. Feeling rejected. So again, you know, looking at inheritances, maybe you feel like you were shut out of an inheritance, and that has led to you really like being overly immersed in this, and you won't let it go. With the Two of Swords, you're kind of in a, what do you call it? Like I said before, like a loggerheads, a stalemate. That's what I was thinking of. And really, it's because of the pain of maybe there's even two families involved. So the father had two families and maybe left the second family the bulk of the money, and you just a pittance, and that has made you feel that way, and you kind of like are being stubborn, refusing to budge from your position. And what I would say about that is sometimes the best way to look at it, I mean, there's usually like a higher situation involved. We can just say, I feel rejected, but when we look at the situation, that person may have felt pressured to do this, maybe by the second wife, and maybe they were vulnerable. You know, sometimes people do things that go against their better interests because they're trying to protect themselves emotionally. And especially if it's an older person, they just may have felt very, I don't know, like don't want to be abandoned and things like that. And so the point being that if you can really look at it in a different way, you may not need that money as a symbol of a parent's love. Even though, you know, we all love money, probably, but it makes it easier to kind of let it go so that you can move on with your life. And something that you can say to yourself is, well, I'm going to respect their wishes. You know, even if I feel hurt about this, I'm going to respect their wishes. If there is like a situation with a work matter, you may feel like you can't break it off. The Three of Swords in the upright position can be like cutting something off just cold. So either maybe now you're working part-time, you still feel obligated, maybe with if you're giving your dad money, you feel like, okay, I'm not going to give him what I gave him before, but I'm going to give him something. And you feel like you haven't just made that break. And maybe this is even just an emotional break too, where you need to like break off with somebody. If you're dealing with a narcissist, maybe this is like, the reason I say covert narcissist is because this is a King of Cups in the upright position. So this may be a kindly person, an emotionally sensitive person, but they always seem to have problems. They always seem to have some kind of situation that they're looking for being rescued from. And, you know, I could very easily see a Virgo person being a codependent type of individual, especially if you have Libra prominent in your chart as well, which you might have inner planets like the moon or Venus and Mars could be there. And what happens is that when somebody is codependent, they feel responsible for other people's problems. And needless to say, this doesn't end well because A, you're not responsible. It's that other person's responsibility. And B, when you give them an inch, they take a mile. there's a never-ending tale of woe that a covert narcissist is going to give you. You think that you've helped them, and then you've given them money, they ask for more money. And they may have a drinking problem we're talking about cups here. They may have things that they need to heal in their own life, and they refuse to do so, but they're looking for you to, bail them out again. And so definitely, if you haven't read the book Codependent No More by Melody Beatty, I highly recommend it. And that can help you to not feel guilty when you disengage, and when you kind of turn your attention to your own life and your own dreams. What was I going to say? Well, I was going to say that with covert narcissism, they may get you in that heart chakra where you feel like, oh, this person has such a difficult run of things, and I'm going to help them. I'm going to be the hero. And, yes, I mean, of course, help people. But if you notice that it's a pattern, then you have to really think about, what's really going on here. And sometimes you do have to just cut it off completely, because when you go low contact, which is like the term that's used for narcissists, dealing with narcissists, especially when you feel like you can't totally break it off because it's a family member, sometimes that low contact doesn't work because they always have their access to you, and they always like try to guilt you or somehow obligate you to solve their problems or take care of them. And taking care of somebody is wonderful if they are not abusive, and if they are not, if it's not just a constant problem that they are creating in their own life. What is coming in, or the advice, is the Queen of Cups. This could be the mother, that your mother is going to somehow be involved in this. Maybe you have a discussion with her and you explain that you can't deal with this anymore. And you say, perhaps with the King of Cups, it's really both your mother and your father who are in this position. Maybe like if your father, let's say your father is an alcoholic, and you just don't want to deal with him anymore because it just upsets you too much, and you have a conversation with your mother. Just want to show the cards. Sometimes people say, I can't see all your cards, and it's like, yeah, that's just how my setup is. And then it's possible that in some cases we're talking about you having that intuition to know exactly what to do. So perhaps you have been confused, as the Two of Swords represents, and then you kind of like, it comes very clear to you what you need to do, but it's almost like an intuitive thing. It's not something that is coming from your intellect. And maybe you sense something that you couldn't ascertain by just the mind working. And so actually, I think sometimes we make our best decisions when the intuition is honed, because it means that it's going to feel really good at a gut level. Sometimes we make decisions and then we're kind of thinking too much about it, overthinking it. And we feel like, did I make the right decision? And this we know that we have. And the outcome is the Strength card. Feeling that sense of confidence in our life, and maybe coming back into that feeling of that we are self-empowered, that we are not weakened by somebody else's problems, and even that sense of that we are not at the mercy of somebody else. So if this is like a work situation, you may feel like you can leave if you've been kind of on the fence, and you have the confidence to know that you're going to have another job waiting for you. Because actually, as we go into October and you have planets in Libra, that's your second house of earned income. So that is activated. Actually, at the end of the month, I'll be doing another like update reading for the end of September, but we'll have a new moon in Libra. That'll be your second house of earned income. So that could be like even that sense of making more money and feeling like, and having confidence. Sometimes there's a lot of confidence that's had from making a difficult decision, and then you build upon that strength. Okay, Virgo, I hope that you enjoyed this, and if you'd like a private reading, the link to my website is below. Take care. Bye.